Somewhere at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean lies a fortune no one has seen for centuries. A giant stone disk, lost in a shipwreck long ago, resting in the cold, dark water where no one can reach it. And yet, for generations, an entire island still called it wealth, still counted it as money, still traded with it. A treasure nobody could see, nobody could touch, nobody could ever lift. How can something drowned at the bottom of the sea still be money? The answer is the deepest secret of what money truly is. And once you understand it, you will never look at the cash in your pocket the same way again. We left off with a problem. Cattle and grain had carried humanity for thousands of years, but both had failed. So people everywhere went hunting for something better, and the things they reached for were astonishing. Take salt. Today it is worth almost nothing. But there was a time when men were paid in it, when a handful could buy a meal, when wars were fought over it. In a world with no refrigerators, salt was the only thing standing between a family and starvation through the winter. It preserved meat, it preserved life, and so, naturally, it became money. But salt carried a quiet death sentence. It dissolves. One heavy rain, and a man's entire savings could wash into the mud and disappear before his eyes. So the search continued, and humanity found something far better, a small, smooth, shining shell, the cowrie. For over 3,000 years, from West Africa to the islands of the Pacific, these little shells were money. They may be the most successful currency the world has ever known. They did not rot, they did not break, they were almost impossible to fake, light enough to carry, and even enough in size to count like coins. For a moment it seemed humanity had finally solved it. It hadn't. And the reason why is coming. Because first we have to talk about the strangest money ever created. On the island of Yap, wool was not something you carried. It was something you could barely move. Giant stone discs, some taller than a man, some heavier than a car. They were called rice stones. To buy something truly precious, land, or a daughter's dowry, you handed over one of these enormous stones, except you often didn't hand it over at all. The stones were so heavy that moving them was pointless, so the stone simply stayed where it was, sometimes for generations, while the entire island quietly agreed on who now owned it. No one carried anything, no one locked anything away. Everyone just remembered. And now that fortune at the bottom of the sea makes sense. When a stone was lost in that shipwreck, the people of Yap made a decision. They agreed it still existed. They agreed it still belonged to its owner. And so it was still wealth, drowned, invisible, unreachable, and still worth a fortune. Sit with that for a second, because it means money was never really the stone, or the shell, or the salt. Those were just objects. The real money was the agreement, the shared belief, a story an entire community decided together to treat as true. That is what money has always been, trust made visible, which brings us finally to why all of these monies died. Picture a trader on the West African coast generations ago. His wealth is cowrie shells, thousands of them gathered over a lifetime. In his village, they are rare, and rare means precious. Then the ships arrive. The European traders have discovered that these shells, so valuable here, are lying almost free on distant beaches. So they bring them by the ton, by the shipload, barrels of them poured into the region. And our trader watches, helpless as his fortune quietly dies. He did nothing wrong. He didn't gamble it away. He didn't lose it. The shells in his hands are exactly the same, but there are suddenly so many that they are worth almost nothing. His life savings evaporated simply because the world was flooded with more. This is one of the most important lessons in all of economics. Money only holds its value if it stays scarce. Flood the world with it and it collapses. That single brutal rule is the ancient root of a word you hear constantly today: inflation. And so, after thousands of years, humanity had finally learned exactly what perfect money must be. It must survive the rain. It must divide without being destroyed. It must be easy to carry. And above all, it must be impossible to flood. Salt failed that test. Cattle failed it. Even the beautiful cowrie failed it. The search was for something rarer, something that came out of the earth in limited amounts and could never simply wash up on a beach. And buried in the ground, humanity was about to find it. Why gold? Why did the entire world, on every continent, eventually agree that one soft, shiny yellow metal was worth more than almost anything else? Not iron, not diamond, not something you could actually use. The answer is one of the strangest stories in economics, and it is where we go next.